Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Thank you. Before I begin this morning, I do want to speak about the horrible situation taking place down in Kerrville. Um, Andrea and I are just saddened with the horrible news coming out of Kerrville um, on the flooding that's going on down there and the tragic loss of lives. I want to ensure everyone that under my administration, we'll be doing everything possible to give Governor Abbott everything that he needs on his end. I have been and would be in constant communications with Governor Abbott and the Texas team to make sure that everything they need they get. As far as any kind of potential visit that is forthcoming, the first and foremost thing that we need to take care of before I do go down there is make sure that we're getting everybody rescued. I know we're getting to a point that that's going to turn to recovery, and I hope that we get a whole lot more folks rescued down there before we turn to excuse me a recovery method. But I will be making a trip down there as soon as it's feasible. As you all are well aware of, when I do travel, it takes a large footprint, and I do not want to get in the way of any rescue or recovery efforts. Though, despite that horrible news, it is good to be home here in Texas. I see friends, neighbors, and familiar faces, people who shaped my story, and they remind me every day of why I do this work. This is where I grew up, and these are the values I carry with me every time I walk into the Oval Office: honesty, fairness, hard work, and respect for people who do the right thing, even when it's hard. This is about fairness and the future. I'm here this morning to talk with you about something that hasn't been fair for a long time, and that is our tax system. Right now, billionaires and big corporations are using loopholes to pay less in taxes than teachers, truck drivers, or small business owners. We've got people in Texas paying more than some hedge fund managers. That's not that's not wrong. It's broken. It's broken. You know what? And we're going to fix that. Under this administration, we're going to fix that. And you know who I'm fighting for? I'm thinking about the third grade teacher right here in DeSoto. She buys her own supplies, mentors her students, and stays late to make sure no one falls behind. And that's a common, uh, I want to say, miscommunication or misrepresentation of what teachers do. Uh, I've been married to Andrea. This will be 30 years in November. School teacher, pre-K uh, teacher at a charter school here locally, and and I've been around educators. A lot of educators are my friends, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and teacher, uh, the hours that a teacher puts in during the school year, and and this is not hyperbole. This is not. I'm not joking about this. It sometimes can be 80 hours a week. And a lot of times people are attracted into the teaching profession because they see the benefits, and there are great benefits to that. I mean, I think the number one benefit that you earn out of out of being a teacher is shaping the next generation of leaders in our country. You know, but the problem is that teacher and so many other teachers in our country, and particularly here in Texas, she pays more taxes. She pays her taxes on time, but some billionaire corporations pay nothing. They pay nothing. And I just want to say that, excuse me, that under my administration, that will come to an end. I'm thinking about Luis Rivera. And Lewis is a mechanic in Houston whose shop has been in the family for 25 years. He's created jobs, paid his workers well, and still gets crushed by a tax code that favors corporations with accountants in 5 countries. Lewis is not alone. I think about just down the street here, where there's a auto body, excuse me, there's an auto body facility here in DeSoto that I went to school with the owner of that auto body facility. His dad owned the body shop, and when my friend retired, he went to work for that body shop in DeSoto, and has been there ever since, and is doing a phenomenal job. But his taxes are not where they should be. He's paying so much in taxes, and just down the road we have wealthy millionaires who are paying far less. You know, and I'm also thinking about Destiny Allen, a nurse here in the Dallas area who's on the front lines of our healthcare system. Recently she communicated with me, and she told me, Mr. President, I worked every holiday the last 2 years, but I still can't afford to take my daughter to the doctor without checking my bank balance. Now, how is that? A first responder on the front lines has to get up every morning and check whether she has enough money in her checking account to ensure her daughter gets the right amount of medical attention that she needs. And we need a better tax system built for people like them. And here's what our plan's going to do. First of all, if you earn under $250,000 a year, your taxes will go down, not up. We'll expand the child tax credit, boost the earned income tax credit, provide new deductions for child care, elder care, and college tuition. Just like President Biden did with the American Rescue Plan, we're making sure families have breathing room again. And you may have heard this saying about no new taxes. This is an old saying from years ago. But under my administration, we're going to do the very best we can to ensure that there are no new taxes put on the middle class. If you're a teacher, a nurse, a mechanic, or a small business owner, you will not pay more. Not one dime. Not one dime. We're drawing a line in the sand. The middle class built this country, and we're going to protect them. And we need not to ever forget that. They're the ones that have built this country. Billionaires and corporations will pay their fair share. Like the billionaire minimum tax, we're going to ensure no billionaire pays less than a nurse or a bus driver. Income over $400,000 gets taxed fairly. Capital gains and stock options are taxed like regular income. Corporate tax loopholes and offshore schemes are shut down. For too long in this country, the wealthy have taken advantage of those loopholes. That stops. And yes, just like the Inflation Reduction Act, we'll make sure the biggest corporations pay at least a 15% minimum tax. No more getting away with zero. So what are we going to do with the revenue from this plan? We'll create a lot of income with this plan. So what are we going to do? The revenue from this plan will go right back into the things that matter. Public schools and better teacher pay. Think about that just right off the bat. Infrastructure. I've been talking about that for 4 years. Infrastructure. We're going to put money back in our school system, period. Under my budget, which was released in February, I'm proposing the biggest uh, teacher pay increase in history. The Department of Education will not be phased out. If anything, they will get a $1.72 trillion increase in the budget. In the budget, almost not quite the equivalent of the Defense Department, but just as important. $1.72 trillion budget under my plan, not zero. And in that budget, there'll be teacher pay incentives. In that budget, there'll be teacher pay. There'll be money for teacher uh, pay increases. We're going to ensure that the money comes from the Department of Education back to the state and back to the teachers. And we're also going to ensure that union built infrastructure like roads, bridges, and rail, you know, uh, just like it's going on right now with the bipartisan infrastructure law. We're going to continue that. Our infrastructure needs help. It needs work, and we're going. And under this plan, under this budget, the money is going to be there for that. We're not going to phase out that. We're not going to zero out that. I don't understand for one moment why we even propose to eliminate the Department of Education. I don't understand for one moment why we propose to do the cuts that we have. If anything, in the Department of Education, let's reimagine it. Let's re-engineer it. Let's don't shut it down. Let's re-engineer it. In clean energy jobs, solar, wind, electric factories, yes, those will be part of this infrastructure plan. They won't be zeroed out. And many of those plants, and many of those um, things will happen right here in Texas. In Texas, with tax credits that reward workers and manufacturers, um, it will happen right here in Texas and across this country. We're also going to lower prescription drug costs because thanks to the Medicare plan under President Biden, uh, Medicare can now negotiate prices, and we're going to expand that, protecting Social Security and Medicare. We're not going to cut that. The proposal to cut Medicare and Medicaid, cut it. That's ridiculous. No, we're not going to cut that. We're going to ensure that the folks on Medicare, the folks on Medicaid can afford their prescription drugs. It gets back to the it's sort of tied in education, but a teacher friend of mine a couple of years ago, uh, she got a prescription. It wasn't something that she wanted. It was something that she needed to to help her. You know what the prescription cost? $700. And I just told you about teacher pay. How is that right? How is that right when Big Pharma is raking in billions and billions and billions? She should pay no more than $40. $40. Oftentimes, these medications, what we're paying for, oftentimes is the name. You get a prescription for a medicine that's been out for quite a long period of time, and the copy or the trademark has expired. You're going to pay a lot less than the drug that just came out the last couple of years that we're still paying research and development on, and that we're still it's still got a copyright where it's hundreds of dollars. What did it actually cost to produce that medicine? It wasn't hundreds of dollars. You know where that goes? It goes into the profit margins of Big Pharma, and that ends. Because flat out, you think about it, no senior, no senior should ever have to choose between food and medicine. This is about investing in working people, not padding stock buybacks or luxury jets. My fellow Americans, I didn't come here this morning to make a speech. I came here today to make a promise. We're going to build a tax system that represents every American, that respects your work. We're going to protect the middle class, not squeeze it, and we're going to ask the wealthiest to pay what they owe. No more, no less. And we're going to reinvest in every dollar in our future, not Wall Street's future. You know, and I talked about this last fall. I don't I don't have a problem with the upper class. And I don't want that to come across this morning that I do, because I don't. But I also am a firm believer of, of, of much is given, much is required. And so, what I do believe is those who are successful, and there's people from my hometown here today, here in this city, who are successful. You should return um, some investment to your own city. Think about it. Think about it. If a student was to leave here and went off to college and was successful, and why don't you come back into your community and reinvest in it? Let's say you're an architect. I'm just throwing this out there. Let's say if you're an architect, and we've got a lot of small businesses in our city, come back and offer to design, help that help that person design a building, help that person design an interior, give them the advantages they wouldn't have because they don't have the finances, and they can't afford it. Give back to your community. There is no better feeling than to do that. I think about, you know, think about a person who's really good in public relations, communications. That person could come back to their hometown and reinvest in their community. Reinvest in their community. Give that up and struggling, let's say a restaurant. I know two or three here in DeSoto just opened up that would love to have that kind of help. Give them the help. Again, there's no better feeling than to help the up and coming businesses. You know, and I think about this a lot, especially, and we make a big emphasis on it during the holidays, obviously with small business Saturdays and all that. But I try to make an effort every time I can to visit up and coming restaurants across this country, little small establishments. There's one just down the road here that I plan to visit here in the coming days. Give them a chance. Give them a chance. Oftentimes, those small businesses are 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 the best in the world. So, I'm just saying, um, everybody needs an opportunity in this country. And I keep quoting back to President Biden, but he did say a lot of things about the common folks, and it kind of in tune to what I believe in. He always said, "Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value." Let's hear that again. Let's hear that again. Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value. Well, I'll tell you what I value. I value teachers, mechanics, nurses. Um, I value everyone in this country, every every person in this country. And I've said this before, the middle class has built this country. The middle class is the one who built this country. They should be the ones who benefit the most from this tax program. Folks, you are the heart of this country. And finally, you'll be at the heart of our tax code. Let's get this done. Let's get this done together. Let's do this. Thank you. May God bless you. May God bless our troops. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.